Good evening and welcome to the regular council meeting for Wednesday, October 2nd. We are beginning at 6:02 p.m. We honor all the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. We acknowledge that the ancestral and traditional lands on which we gather are land of the Blackfoot Confederacy and Treaty 7 territory, a traditional meeting ground for many Indigenous peoples, and in particular our neighbors, Siksika Nation, on whose traditional territory we work, live, and play, and on whose traditional territory we stand and where Strathmore resides. At this time, I'd like to confirm the agenda, and I think in your skeleton packages, we have two things that are hopefully going to be added. We just recently received an advocacy letter for us to discuss, and then I have asked for a council dialogue to deal with a legal issue. Councillor Peterson?
Your Worship, I would move that Council adopt the October 2nd, 2024 regular council meeting agenda as amended with the additions of 12.2, the advocacy letter from the province, advice from officials, FOIP 24.1A, and 12.4, council dialogue, advice from officials, FOIP 24, section 1B.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. That brings us to the public hearing. Intermunicipal Development Plan Bylaw number 24-15. This public hearing for bylaw number 24-15, being a bylaw to adopt the Town of Strathmore and Wheatland County Intermunicipal Development Plan, is in session at 6:04 p.m. This public hearing is held pursuant to the Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000, Chapter M-26, and amendments thereto. Legislative Services.
Thank you, Worshiping Council. The purpose of the public hearing is to discuss Bylaw 2415. Advertising for this public hearing was as follows. Notice of the public hearing was posted to the Town of Strathmore website on September 6, 2024. Notice of the public hearing was mailed to adjacent landowners on September 9th, 2024. Notice of the public hearing ran in the Strathmore Times on the following dates: September 11th, September 18th, September 25th, and October 2nd of 2024. Notice of the public hearing was included in the October 2024 utility newsletter. And finally, the notice of the public hearing was posted on the town's Facebook page on September 6th, 27th of 2024 and October 1st, 2024. The town has received a written submission from Graham Fitzsimmons in opposition to the bylaw.
Thank you. Pursuant to the town's council procedure bylaw, the following rules of conduct shall be followed during the public hearing to ensure procedural fairness. No person shall address council without the permission of the mayor. No person shall speak more than once or more than 5 minutes, exclusive of the time required to answer questions from council. Respect for staff, council, and the public shall always be maintained. Any person who wishes to address council shall state and spell their name. And please note, this is your time to let council know your thoughts. As per council procedure bylaw number 23-17, section 12.12, no person shall address council regarding a matter that has been the subject of a public hearing following the conclusion of the public hearing. And the order of presentation tonight shall be the administration, those in favor of the bylaw, those opposed to the bylaw, and any other person deemed to be affected by the bylaw. Council may ask questions of the speakers after each presentation for clarification purposes, and there will be no debating the bylaw. Would administration like to present? Good evening, Chuck, and welcome.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Chuck Proctor. I'm the manager of development services here at the town. It's too high. I've got a very brief presentation for you tonight. Then I'm going to pass it off to Brian with ISL Engineering. So first off, I just wanted to start off with a thank you to the project team, Brian and Bridget, Vicky Dodge, our project manager who joins us virtually, our colleagues at Wheatland County, Again, I'm just doing a very brief introduction from administration, followed by a presentation from ISL Engineering. The Municipal Government Act, or the MGA, requires all municipalities that are not members of growth region that have a common boundary to adopt an IDP. Strathmore and Wheatland County left Calgary Metropolitan Regional Board in March of 2022. And now we're required by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and the MGA to have an IDP with Wheatland County. The deadline to adopt an IDP has been extended to December 31st, 2024. And this is set by the Minister of Municipal Affairs. Strathmore and Wheatland County were successfully awarded the Alberta Communities Partnerships Grant funding for the IDP and ICF projects. An RFP was posted and the contract was awarded to ISL Engineering to help us write the IDP. Their presentation is to follow. Tonight's format, it's new for us. We're mirroring Wheatland County's format, which they had a council meeting last night. We start off with a public hearing. Subject to the feedback and information provided at the public hearing, we're requesting first reading and second reading tonight. Council can debate the bylaw after second reading. The county did have 3 amendments, which we'll get into later. They're minor amendments to the IDP. But it's critical that should they adopt it, the Council of Wheatland County and Council of the Town of Strathmore both adopt the same document. Should council move to amend any portion of the IDP, this must be reflected in the version the town adopts and vice versa. The project team will review any amendments following this hearing and second reading, first and second readings, and amend the IDP accordingly before returning for third and final reading and adoption. Should council approve first and second reading of the Town of Strathmore Wheatland Council IDP, administration will confer with their counterparts at the county regarding any potential amendments proposed by either council. Should council move to amend the portion of the IDP, this must be, if IDP remains unchanged or if there are minor amendments, the item will return to consideration third reading on October 16th, 2024. Substantive amendments may require further review and discussion. In that case, the item will return at a later date, but the third reading date must be before the end of 2024. The final reading will not require an additional public hearing, and once third reading is granted, the IDP will come into effect. Sorry, I sounded a little robotic there. I just wanted to say the same words as Wheatland County, our counterparts there. And then tonight, we're just recommending that council proceed with the public hearing and that council take into consideration all the information received at the public hearing. I'm going to pass it off to my colleague Brian with ISL Engineering. Thank you.
Thank you for having me tonight, Your Worship and members of council. I'm here to present on the intermunicipal development plan process. For the benefit of other council members that may not be members of the ICC, I've got a couple slides here on what an IDP is, the IDP planning process, as well as the IDP itself in 3 parts. That includes the plan area, plan policies, and implementation. So a little bit about IDP 101. So the figure you're seeing there is the provincial planning hierarchy. It's important to note that of the statutory plans or those required by the MGA, IDPs sit above the local municipal development plan because that is the level of plan that interacts with municipal neighbors. I'm also going to speak about when an IDP is required and a little bit about some best practices. So an IDP is a statutory plan prepared collaboratively between 2 or more municipalities. It addresses the future use and development of areas around a common boundary, and it provides land use and policy direction for lands of mutual importance, agreed to and adopted through matching municipal bylaws for each municipality party to an IDP. When is it required? It's required when 2 or more councils of municipalities have common boundaries and are not members of a growth region, must adopt an IDP. And then what happens if municipalities decide to do an IDP but can't agree? In this situation, if 2 more councils cannot complete an IDP, it must be referred to the minister, and that would then be referred to the minister to the Land and Property Rights Tribunal for its recommendations. The contents of an IDP. So an IDP must address the future land use within the plan area, manner of and proposals for future development in this plan area, provision of transportation systems in the plan area, coordination of intermunicipal programs relating to the physical, social, and economic development of the plan area and environmental matters within the plan area. either generally or specifically. Must also include a procedure to be used to resolve or attempt any conflict, a procedure to be used to amend or repeal the plan, as well as provisions relating to the administration of the plan itself. And when I talk about the three sections of your IDP, I'll go over that in some detail. So what are the best practices? It's important to be clear about the why. And so in this case, as Chuck mentioned, IDP is needed due to the ministerial order that resulted from the fact that both municipalities are no longer members of the Calgary Metropolitan Region. Secondly, it's important to remember that this is an agreement between municipalities, so individual landowners have a limited role in the preparation of the IDP, but we're happy to hear thoughts and input, and we have throughout the process, which I'll speak to in a moment. And last but not least is mutual need, mutual benefit. This is an opportunity to look towards attracting development, protecting spaces that benefits both municipalities. Frank and fair conversation about what the future could like benefits everybody. Speaking to the project work plan itself, this slide goes over the first three phases, which involved identifying and refining the plan area. So phase one was the project kickoff, and this occurred from September to October in 2023. This initial phase of the project focused on building an understanding of the interface or the rural-urban fringe between the town and county, as well as identifying the study area, from which the plan area was eventually created from. Technical studies occurred from October to December 2023. In this phase, technical analysis of the IDP study area was undertaken in order to have informed decisions regarding opportunities and constraints within the study area. And public feedback phase 3 occurred from December 2023 to January 2024. And this phase included public engagement regarding the findings from the technical studies to better understand community insight within the study area. The public information session was held at the Strathmore Civic Centre on December 13th, 2023. So here's a map showing the initial study area. The bounds of the study area were 1.5 miles to the north, east, and south of the furthest extent of the town to Strathmore's corporate boundaries, and 2 miles to the west of the town towards the city of Calgary. The technical studies that were undertaken at that time included an environmental overview, transportation overview, servicing overview, population analysis, and a current land use analysis, as well as a review of the area structure plans currently in effect. The next half of the project work plan, so phases 4 to 6, involved drafting and refining the plan. So phase 4 was drafting the intermunicipal development plan itself, and this occurred from February to May 2024. So during this phase, the plan area was identified, and I'll show you that in a moment. Policies were drafted, and a preliminary future development scenario was prepared. Phase 5, the second phase of public feedback, occurred from May to June 2024. And this phase included sharing the draft IDP with residents and gathering feedback on plan policies, as well as circulating the plan to referral agencies for formal review. Public information session was held at the Strathmore Civic Centre on June 18, 2024. And that leads us to tonight, which was the refinement and adoption of the IDP. So phase 5, refinements have been made to the plan policies to reflect phase 5 feedback, and separate public hearings occurred yesterday morning in Wheatland County and tonight with yourselves. So at a high level, the intermunicipal development plan, the purpose of your IDP is to facilitate and sustain long-term strategic growth and to identify joint development opportunities in the rural urban fringe between the town of Strathmore and Wheatland County. There are 3 parts to the IDP. First section is plan area, second section is plan policies, and third section is implementation. And I'll speak to each of those 3 parts over the next 3 slides. So section number 1 is the plan area. This section introduces the reader to the intermunicipal development plan and the current conditions within the plan area. The figure that you see on the left is the plan area, and that was refined from the original study area. There's 3 guiding commitments that provide guidance to both municipalities. First is a commitment to the region. Municipalities will cooperate to advance regional interests and opportunities while remaining mindful of each municipality's unique vision and mandate. The second commitment is a commitment to each other. The municipalities commit to working cooperatively for their mutual benefit through effective and ongoing collaboration, coordination, and communication. And last but not least, there's a commitment to responsible development. The municipalities will strive for consistent execution and enforcement of responsible development practices within the plan area. Section number 2 covers the plan policies themselves. So this section outlines the future growth scenario, which is the figure on the left, and policies for the development of the plan area, recognizing that growth will occur and providing guidance that reflects an appropriate transition between the municipalities. There's 6 sections within, or 6 policy areas within Section 2: general land use policy, future business area land use policy, predominantly agricultural lands policy, transportation policy, infrastructure policy, and last is social and economic policy. I think one of the things that came through within the public information sessions and was item for discussion at yesterday's public hearing in the county is with respect to the highway bypass prepared by Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors. I'm happy to answer any questions with relation to that, but I think the important thing is with respect to the timing and the eventual construction of that is with a provincial body. And one of the documents that they would look to is actually the town's, your transportation master plan. And so according to the transportation master plan, the bypass is not required in the 2049 horizon, and therefore any construction would likely be more than 25 years out. Our third and final section is with respect to implementation. So this section outlines the framework for enacting the IDP policies, as well as administering the plan. We have general implementation policies, applications, and the intermunicipal referral process between administrations, the Intermunicipal Collaboration Committee, which some of you are members of, the Intermunicipal Collaboration Framework, as well as the dispute resolution process. So there are 6 steps to this process, including administrative review and discussion, CEO review if there's required and escalating to the ICC, review by the ICC committee with 60 days, municipal councils as step 4 of the dispute resolution escalation. Step 5 would involve Alberta Municipal Affairs mediation, and last but not least is step 6, which is appeal to the LPRT. And this dispute resolution process is one of the requirements within the MGA. So these policy amendments were brought forward by Wheatland County. So the following amendments to the IDP were brought forward at County Council yesterday morning. There was an amendment to policy 232, which is under the general land use policies, to strengthen the language not supporting CFOs and standalone manure storage facilities. So strengthening it from within the plan area is not supported to shall not be supported. So that's the strengthening of that language there. There was another amendment to the future business area policy. So I'll read that out loud or out in full, but future commercial industrial developments on lands not within the town's municipal boundary should be directed to those areas identified in the future business area instead of a shall. And then policy 252, which is actually related to 241, but it speaks to the predominantly agricultural lands policy. It's part of the notwithstanding policy 241. Single lot commercial industrial development may be approved within the predominantly agricultural lands, provided the following criteria are met. And so this was changed from the site is located along or near a major transportation route, such as a provincial highway, to a transportation route, such as a provincial highway or a developed roadway. There was also the request at that time, and we've discussed it amongst administrations, to add language.
Excuse me, could I ask you one question? What would be the reasoning to change it to a transportation route from a major transportation route? I'm just trying to get a sense of why that was considered a necessary change.
If I recall the conversation correctly, it was to allow for more options. Instead of just a major transportation route, the county, as I understand it, has major and minor roads, and so this would allow for either minor or major within the agricultural lands. And actually, just to help clarify this, the predominantly agricultural area, do I have a, okay, I don't have a laser here, but the predominantly agricultural area is the brown hatch slanted to the right, and the future business area is the purple hatch slanted to the left. So those are the areas that the policy is speaking to. So in this context, it would be roads within the predominantly agricultural area on the north of the highway. The other requests coming out of yesterday aren't policy, or there's no policy implications to that, but they're edits that we can make prior to third reading. One is to add just a interpretation section stating what shall, should, and may, standard in a municipal development plan and easy enough for us to add to the IDP prior to third reading, as well as we were asked to add definitions of what absorbed and unabsorbed mean in a footnote to section 1.5, so just to provide more clarity to the reader. And that concludes my presentation this evening.
Any questions for Brian from council? So maybe just a question on the practical level. Should this, when this IDP goes through, what would be a typical process if there's going to be a major commercial project within that IDP area? What would be the first steps would we have as a council? Would we hear from the county, or would the county hear from us? Would we be sharing all that information because it's in the IDP?
Sure, I'm going to just open up the intermunicipal referral process section, so that's section 3-3. And so it does depend on the nature of the development. But referral, this section goes over the referral process, and referral is actually between administrations on a first order. But for example, if it's a new or amended area structure plan or conceptual scheme, either within the future business area, the predominantly agricultural lands, or the urban referral area, as identified in Figure 5, it shall be made to the adjacent municipality. So that's between administrations.
Any other questions for Brian? Deputy Mayor Wiley?
Sure. I'm going to make reference to the map on page 15, but I think it's the one you already made reference to in your presentation.
So if I may, this
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
Yes.
So essentially that small change would allow them to develop Range Road 254, Range Road 253. Of course, already Highway 118 817 was a possibility, but also Range Road 251 and Range Road 250.
That amendment would allow for that. Yes.
Yeah.
So what this is saying is that it may be approved within the predominantly agricultural lands, but it doesn't mean that it shall be approved. So I think
Right.
one thing to keep in mind is it would still go through their review process, and because it is occurring within the plan area, it would be sent to your administration for review as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Langmaid?
Thank you, Your Worship. Oh, I'm loud today. Just to clarify, it would be sent to us for referral and comment, but we would not, we wouldn't have any ability to actually stop a project from occurring in that area. We could just provide comment and say we would not like that to happen.
That is actually what the dispute resolution process is for. So if it is deemed to be something that beyond administrative review and discussion, then it would be elevated to CAOs prior to the ICC, but there is that.
Perfect, that's where the dispute resolution process would come in. Perfect, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Brian.
Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone present who supports bylaw number 24-15 who wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none. Is there anyone present who opposes bylaw number 24-15 who wishes to speak? Okay. Is there anyone present deemed to be affected by bylaw number 24-15 who wishes to speak? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to the last one. Are there any questions of clarification from council? Councillor Peterson?
Your worship, my question is probably best referred, I'm not sure whether it's ISL or to our administration, but I've watched with great interest the new Alberta Property Rights Preservation Act and the statements that our Premier has made recently, where she has spoke out with quite a bit of decisiveness regarding Bill 50, which is the transmission lines, and Bill 19, which is the freezing tracts of land for public uses, and then Bill 36, which is the Land Stewardship Act. And I'm wondering, and so I guess I am anticipating some significant turmoil into the future with regards to this new bit of legislation and what we are now being asked to carry out. Because in my understanding, she's said quite emphatically that anything that impairs leases or property values will be looked at quite sternly. And I don't, that's not her words, those are mine. But she has been eloquent about speaking to this, and I'm wondering if someone could give us a crystal ball view of what this might look like into the future if this legislation, if this Bill of Rights legislation passes prior to the IDP or vice versa, and what our way forward might be then. And I understand that this, if this is not the best place to answer those questions, I'm prepared very much, Your Worship, to wait as well.
Thank you. CAO Scoble?
Yes, thank you. At this point, I don't think we've contemplated those. The draft was, pretty much done before a lot of that stuff came out, but they certainly are good points and something that we'll have to keep an eye on for the future.
Deputy Mayor Wiley.
Sure, I heard a blurb just at the very beginning of this that we're not following our normal procedure with this public hearing. I just wondered, what was it again that administration had informed us? If we're to receive new information after tonight's public hearing, can you just remind me what that's supposed to look like with this different process?
Thank you, Worship and Council. No worries. So, the interest of, sorry, it's pretty loud. Let's just back up a little bit. So, Section 1212 of the procedure bylaw does prevent council from accepting new information after a public hearing is closed or concluded. The reason being is that we want to ensure procedural fairness to make sure that all of council is working off the same information, and all the information is then also publicly available through the public record of the public hearing as well. If that answers your question.
Yeah, and then what's the advice from administration if new information was to come forward between now and the third reading?
I think it's important that council understands the process, that, you know, we're trying to ensure procedural fairness. And so make sure you're not acting on that new information and that we're being as transparent as possible as well with all residents and your council as well, fellow councilors.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have one final question as we're getting close to the IDP acceptance, and that is to the administration, any of the folks who've worked on this. Do you feel there are enough securities within this IDP that would be, and I hate to use the word protect, but that would give us as a town security as the CMRB did for us as a community? I guess I'm asking, do you feel comfortable with what you've seen so far, your work so far? Do you feel solid that this is a good thing for our community? Because I know people might ask me about that in the public. CAO Scoble?
Thank you. Excuse me, I'll start it off with Part A and maybe turn Part B over to Jamie, more so on the, I guess, the technical stuff. Procedurally and process-wise, I think it offers good protections. It's pretty consistent with other IDPs, that sort of thing. I mean, it provides protections, but at the same time, it respects boundaries of and decision-making of the respective councils within their own jurisdictions as well. In terms of perhaps some of the technical protections, I'll turn that over to Jamie.
Through the chair, I would agree from a process perspective. It was a good process. We engaged the public. We had ICC meetings on the IDP, and I think it achieves in my mind, the two major purposes of an IDP is it outlines how we communicate with the county and how we share different applications that come to us so that we can each comment on them. And it also attempts to eliminate any major land use conflicts between the two municipalities. So it kind of certainly checks those two boxes from my perspective.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Worship. Just to Director Dugdale, in the letter that was presented by the Fitzsimmons family, which are in council chambers tonight, they did ask if there would be any more engagement with the public to address concerns, and I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Through the chair, we hadn't intended on doing that. Our hope is that the public hearing is closed this evening and we do get final readings before the end of October. That being said, some of the things that were identified in that letter, I would suggest perhaps would be better spoken to with regards to the municipal development plan process, which is a document that we're working on as well within the town.
So they could speak to you, Director Dugdale, is that what you're saying?
Certainly they
for
could
clarity?
speak. They could speak to me or
Yes.
or certainly Chuck Proctor as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions from council? Then I will close the public hearing for bylaw number 24-15, being a bylaw to adopt the Town of Strathmore and Wheatland County Intermunicipal Development Plan at 6:35 p.m. We move back to the public portion, and I believe we have no public comments, or do we have any public comments tonight? We have no delegations tonight, which brings us to item 6, the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that councillors would like to see removed and dealt with individually? Deputy Mayor Wiley?
Yeah, I'd like to remove 10.2.2 Wedemsa report. I'm just looking for the board members on the Wedemsa, for the sake of the public, just to give some information on this.
Thank you.
And I'm prepared to make a motion.
Great, thank you, Deputy Mayor.
I move that council adopt the recommendations of the following agenda reports by an omnibus motion. 7.1, regular council meeting minutes, September 18th. 9.1, gas franchise fee advertising requirement. 9.2, 2024 capital amendment municipal enforcement patrol vehicle. 10.2.1, Wheatland Housing Management Body meeting minutes from June 27th. 10.2.3, WREMP, April 25th, unapproved meeting minutes. WREMP, September 12th, unapproved meeting minutes. And 11.1, letter from Minister Nixon, regarding Wheatland Lodge and Hospice project.
Thank you for that motion. All in favor? And that motion is carried. We move now to bylaws. 8.1 Intermunicipal Development Plan Bylaw number 24-15, which is found on page 49 of the agenda. Welcome back, Chuck.
Thank you, Mayor Fuel. I've got nothing further to add. We're recommending first reading tonight and second reading in alignment with the county's amendments to the bylaw. Myself, Vicky Dodge, and Brian Conger are here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Any motions coming forward, councillors? Any questions for any of the people? Further questions? Councillor Peterson?
I would move that council give first reading to bylaw number 24-15, being a bylaw to adopt the Town of Strathmore and Wheatland County Intermunicipal Development Plan.
Thank you. All in favor? That motion is carried. Councillor Peterson?
I'd move the council give second reading to bylaw number 24-15, being a bylaw to adopt the Town of Strathmore and Wheatland County Intermunicipal Development Plan as amended, and that policy 2.3.2 be amended to state the development of new or expansion of existing confined feeding operations, or CFOs, or standalone manure storage facilities within the plan area shall not be supported. Policy 2.4.1 be amended to state future commercial and industrial development on lands not within the town's municipal boundary should be directed to those areas identified as future business area in the future development scenario as per figure 5. And that policy 2.5.2 be amended to state, notwithstanding policy 2.4.1, single lot, commercial and industrial development may be approved within the predominantly agricultural lands as per figure 5, provided that the following criteria are met. A, that the site is located along or near a transportation route, such as a provincial highway or a developed roadway.
Thank you for that motion. Now that we have a motion for second reading, is there any further discussion on the motion? Councillor Peterson, did you want to speak to it?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want two things. The first one is that I'm anxious to hear insight from our professionals with regards to what could be a new Alberta Bill of Rights and how that might impact us into the future, and that in between this time and the next, there'll be opportunity for them to keep council aware and also to encourage the Fitzsimmons family to follow up with our municipal development plan.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Deputy Mayor Wiley?
I have concern about the amendment that Wheatland County made for policy 2.5.2. I wasn't particularly happy about the idea of commercial and industrial property going along Highway 817 within that boundary, but the idea that through, obviously through negotiation, that there could be development anywhere on any of those range roads, I think it's too much, so I won't be able to support the motion as amended. I would certainly support the first two parts, 2.3.2 and 2.4.1, but I won't be supporting 2.5.2.
So Jonathan, from a legislative point of view, with the motions all presented as a group, if Deputy Mayor Wiley is not comfortable with 2.5.2, would he be advised then to vote against the entire motion?
Thank you, Worship and Council. I can't give advice on how to vote on a
No,
motion, but
yeah, sorry.
a councillor could amend the motion to remove the section if you have issues with it.
Deputy Mayor?
So I vote to amend the motion, and looking for advice from administration, should I reread the entire motion up to the point where I'm not comfortable in favor, or should I just say with the removal of policy 2.5.2 and read that?
Jonathan?
Thank you, Worship and Council. Ultimately, that'll be up to you, Councillor, but you could do it either way. You could amend the motion to remove the amendments or the proposed amendments to policy 2.5.2, or you could amend the motion to read as follows and then list out the the amendments that you are comfortable with.
I move to amend the motion to remove policy 2.5.2 to be amended to state, notwithstanding policy 2.4.1, single lot commercial and industrial development may be approved within the predominantly agricultural lands, see figure 5, provided that the following criteria are met. A, the site is located along or near a transportation route such as a provincial highway or a developed roadway. That's to remove that section.
Thank you. So you've made that amendment. I'm wondering if I could ask a question of our administration. What are your thoughts on this potentiality? Is that a word? It is now. What are your thoughts on the potential of commercial development being done on those secondary roads? Is this with this in as part of that bylaw?
Maybe I'll start off, turn over to Jamie. I mean, I guess, you know, these are sort of new to administration as well. We haven't had a chance to review them and or discuss any of these three amendments with the county. So I don't know that we can really speak to what their intent or why they want it. Jamie, maybe I'll turn it over to you with respect to the roads.
Through the chair, I guess what I could add is that, you know, whether with the friendly amendment, I'll speak to, you know, if we allow the amendment to go forward, any development within the county would still have to adhere to their land use bylaw and their municipal development plan. I don't have that in front of me, but so it doesn't mean it will happen, I guess is what I'm saying. Just because it's allowed doesn't mean it will happen. But CAO Scoble is correct. We haven't had a lot of time to consider these amendments.
Thank you, Jamie. Councillor Peterson.
And so when I like what you said about not knowing the intent, and I think that's really important, you know, is, you know, what is the intention going forward? I'd really be interested in knowing what that intention was. You know, if I know that for decades, our neighboring counties worked really, really hard to maintain arable land at all costs. And I understand that that's shifting. I think I'd be correct in saying that single lot and commercial industrial development exists along our major highways now and our secondary highways throughout the county of Wheatland. And I certainly see Councillor Wiley's wisdom in questioning this. I believe that it's worth another look and a greater conversation.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. I really appreciate Deputy Mayor Wiley's comments on 2.5.2. I think we're all hoping that there could be a lot of spin-off industries from various projects that are going on. We obviously know about the major one. So I think this is something that we should probably find out what again, as Councillor Peterson and Deputy Mayor have said is, you know, what's the intent for this? And maybe we should gather some more information on 2.5.2's potential to the IDP. So I would be in support of Deputy Mayor Wiley's amendment. Any other comments? CAO Scoble.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to clarify my comments, we haven't reviewed the intent of any of these three amendments. And we haven't analyzed them or discussed what that could mean to the town if those are adopted in that form.
Okay, thank you. So does anyone have any concerns with 2.4.1? Councillor Wagoner?
I guess for me, like I say, these came up tonight. I don't fully understand how they're written. Maybe that's just me, but 2.3.2, 2.4.1, 2.5.2, since they came up, and what I'm hearing from administration is they haven't had much time to review these policies and put full thought to it. I guess my thought would be can we just look at scrapping this whole, or voting against this whole amendment tonight? And then let administration take a look and give us their expert opinion? And again, I looked at 2.5.2, and what Deputy Mayor Wiley said does make a lot of sense. But it's the other ones too that causing a little bit of, maybe a little bit of concern on my end as well.
Jonathan, I'm wondering if the original motion that had the original 2.3.2, 2.4.1, 2.5.2, if that was defeated now, it would allow for us to gather more information and have this come back to us for further consideration and a vote again?
Thank you, Your Worship. So the current motion on the floor is the amendment as proposed by Deputy Mayor Wiley. The motion that is amending the other motion on the floor, first, it also includes second reading of the bylaw as well. So if you were to defeat the motion, you'd also be defeating second reading.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson?
So once we vote on the amendment, can we withdraw the motion and move to defer?
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Council could withdraw any motion on the floor.
Thank you, Your Worship. It would be my intention to go ahead with Councillor Wiley's amendment and then move to defer. I would withdraw my motion
Okay,
and move to defer.
thank you.
That's what. I didn't mean to say that.
I think were you thinking of accepting his amendment? That would accept the second reading. Yeah, that's right.
You're right.
Okay. So you're withdrawing your entire motion then? Okay. Jonathan, are we following the correct procedure?
Sorry, sorry.
Through the chair, could we just have a quick recess to confer here?
Councillor Langmaid?
I'd like to move we recess for five minutes so we can just get ourselves procedurally straight.
Thank you. All in favor? That motion is carried.